Ladies and gentlemen, and all folks in between, and welcome to another episode of Aunt Millicent's Cooking Show. Hey y'all, thanks for joining me again. Today on the show, I'm going to be making an old family favorite in our house, and it's a great old recipe, and you're going to love it. It's a recipe for beef stroganoff, and it's kind of they call it the economy beef stroganoff, but I think of it as easy beef stroganoff instead of economy. So it's very tasty. Everybody in your family will absolutely love it, and it's very filling too. It's also from a recipe book from, I think, from '69. Get your old recipe books out. They're better than the modern ones. They do milk, they do butter, they do the tasty stuff, not just the substitutes. So I think the old school recipes are so much better for this old comfort food. So without further ado, let's apron up and get started. Get right into the ingredients. The first thing you're going to need are some beef. I got like stew beef. It's about a pound and a half or so. It's already cut into chunks. Very convenient. Okay. The next thing you're going to have is some shrooms. I got these from the package from the store already cut up. You can buy the ones that are not cut up. Save yourself $1 or something, or 50 cents. And make sure you wash these, please. But just some mushrooms. And the other fundamental ingredient in stroganoff is some egg noodles. Okay, these are great. I got the wide hearty home style. Okay, these are the essentials of beef stroganoff. We have to make the sauce that goes with it. Okay, so to make the sauce and everything else, you need to get yourself an onion. Okay, some sour cream. It can be even fat free if you want to cut calories. You're going to need some beef broth. You're going to need a cup and a half. I'm sorry. So you need quite a bit of this, so make sure you have some. Okay. Then you're going to need 2 tablespoons of good old-fashioned ketchup. Okay, that gives a little bit of substance. You're going to need about 1/4 to 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic. Okay, you can even crush your own if you want, or the pickled garlic works just fine. Okay. You're going to need a 1/2 stick of butter. This is essential for the sauce. And a little bit of salt, always essential. Salt is as your taste can stand it. And if you got, if you want to avoid the sodium, just don't put it in. Okay. And finally, you have this is our flour tub here. We have bugs in the American South, and we like to keep them out of the food. So anyway, I promise you, this is flour. It wasn't found in the west wing of the house anywhere. So anyway, there you go. So we're going to need a little bit of flour to make our substance on our stroganoff. Okay. And before you start cooking, I want you to get the biggest pot you can find in your house and go ahead and start some water boiling for your noodles. Okay. So as we go, we'll just throw those noodles in and cook them as per directions, whatever they may be. Okay. So you need to have your noodles ready by the time your sauce and everything is nice and well cooked, and you'll be ready to go. Okay. Anyway, that's about it. And you're not going to see a lot of me. You're going to see my hands because I'm going back to the stove. Because there's not a whole lot of prep. The only thing that really is to prep is you need to cut up your onion. Okay, and that's it. And you guys have already seen me cut an onion 1,000 times, so I'm not going to do another one. Okay, maybe I should do a video that's just cutting an onion up. I mean, I don't know how fundamental some of you folks' knowledge of cooking is, or how experienced you are. So I assume you start with nothing. And if you go back and watch my old videos, you'll see me going through every little step. But I'm thinking that if you want to see me cut up an onion, go back and watch an old video. Maybe I should do like a video of the real basic cooking skills. I don't know. What do you think? So I want to get over to the stove and we'll start our stroganoff. Okay, y'all. First thing you'll see I've started is my egg noodles. The water started boiling very soon after I got my ingredients on film. And I got to cook these about 9 to 11 minutes. And then take them out and drain them. And I'm done with that step. Okay, so we'll put that aside. Okay, and I'm going to go over to the other pot. For the stroganoff, we're going to have to start with a nice big pot. Make sure you have plenty of space for a lot of beef to cook in. Go ahead and warm that up. Cook it on probably about medium heat or so. Okay, and I want you to put in 2 tablespoons of butter. And we're going to put in all of our beef. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, this may not be very pretty, but here we go. And we're going to cook that down and get it nice and brown. Okay. Then we're going to add all the stuff for the sauce that goes with the stroganoff. Okay. So those are my first step. I got started with the cold stove. That probably wasn't good. But we're going to cook that. When the beef gets brown, we're going to come back. Okay. Stay with me. Our beef is now brown, cooking at a nice hot temperature. Now we got to start the sauce. Okay. Now, the first thing that I want to do to calm this down, we're going to add about a cup of this beef broth to it. Okay. There we go. Go ahead and add about a half a teaspoon of salt. And I want you to go ahead and add a little bit of minced garlic. This is about a fourth of a teaspoon. Add it as you like. Some people like garlic, some people don't. And the last thing we're going to add to this sauce is some ketchup. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of ketchup. Got to squirt another one here. That looks good. The ketchup, it's not a tomatoey sauce, okay? So you won't even notice there's ketchup in there. Okay. Stir that up real good and let that come back to a boil. And once it does, I want you to cover that up and I want you to simmer that for a long time. The longer you cook it, the better that beef's going to be, okay? It's going to be turn into tender, easy to chew or no chew, disintegrate in your mouth beef, okay? So again, go ahead, return that to a boil. Whenever it starts to do a simmering boil, you know what boiling looks like, and let that come up, and it's already starting up again, see? Cover it up, and I would say cook it for 30 minutes to 45 minutes. You can check your beef, see what tenderness you want, but you can leave it in there a long time. You can cook it up to an hour, maybe even an hour and a half. It should be just fine, okay? So let that roll, and we'll go. And hey, that kind of looks like it's boiling, doesn't it? So I want to go ahead and put my cover on it, okay? There we go. So let that cook, go pour yourself a drink, watch some TV, read a book, come back in about a half an hour, okay? I forgot to mention, you probably want to lower your temperature, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Put it on simmer, okay? You don't want to scorch that for 30 minutes to an hour, obviously, okay? Sorry, so do that. Okay, y'all, thanks for sticking with me. It's 45 minutes later, and I'm going to go ahead and start adding the rest of the things. So I'm going to take off my lid. And the first thing I want you to do is turn the heat up again. We're going to raise everything back to a boil, okay? So my meat is there, and it is really, you can cut it with a knife really easily right now. So you just want it tender. You can go for another 15 minutes to 45 minutes if you want to get it super tender, okay? But we're going to have to return this to a boil no matter what. So it's going to get hot all over again, okay? So the first thing I want you to do is we started with a cup of beef broth. We're going to add another half a cup of beef broth now, okay? Then I want you to take those shrooms that we have washed, right? Let's go ahead and put those in there, okay? And then the last thing, no, not the last thing, I'm sorry. The next thing we're going to add is the onion that I cut up, okay? I just diced it up real nice. And there you go. Okay, let's stir that up a little bit. Make sure you get everything nice and submerged, or at least have some of that gravy on top of it, okay? Now I'm going to add another couple of things in here, okay? Or not a couple of things, just one thing. We're going to add some flour, okay? So get your teaspoon. We're going to add 3 of these to this mix. I'm going to add it with slow technique, all right? And what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to slowly make this broth combo a little thicker, okay? So what I need is a whisk, and that whisk is going to slowly get those bits of flour in there without making it lumpy, okay? That looks pretty good. We need to add one more. And there's one more. Don't add all 3 at the same time, okay? You're risking lumps, and we don't have time for lumpy gravy, right, y'all? I mean, don't you remember that song? Ain't got no time for lumpy gravy. Yeah, smash hit back in the '80s, right? There's another one. And then let's go one more. Go ahead and whisk that up. So make sure your onions and your shrooms are good and submerged in there. And now it's starting to look like some stroganoff. The last ingredient we're going to add is some sour cream, but we're not going to add that until this all cooks down and all the mushrooms are nice and done and all of the onions are nice and done. So what we're going to have to do now is cover this, bring this to a boil again, and then cover it up and simmer it for a while. And you'll know when it's done. It'll just look right. Okay. So check back with me in a while, and I'll tell you how long it's taken to cook this down. Okay. And stick with me. Hey, just an addendum here. The broth, what I had there was kind of thick, so I added a little bit more of the beef broth to it to thin it out. So just cook that nice and out. I'm going to cover it up here in just a second and let it cook down. Okay. All right, y'all, keep your heat on this and stir it. Okay, stir it quite a bit. You see I got a nice little gravy going here, and that's because there's flour in there keeping that together. Okay, so we're going to make sure those mushrooms and onions are well cooked, and I'll be back. Okay, y'all, we are almost done. This is cooked probably another 10-15 minutes or so, just to get it nice and boiled. Your shrooms should be good and done. You should be able to cut them with a spoon, and it looks like I can. And your onions just, honestly, they just kind of blend in there. I assume they're done, but they cooked at a good rapid boil for a very long time, so they should be good and done. So the last step we got to do is put in our sour cream. Okay, so go ahead and just plop it on in there and stir it in. This is what gives it that stroganoff gravy taste. This kind of off-putting. So I won't say it's off-putting, but it's a different kind of taste than a normal kind of gravy. And gives it a kind of sour lift. Okay, so mix that in, stir it up, just bring it to a nice, warm temperature, and we're ready to serve. Okay, so I'm going to stir mine in. It starts to really look like that. See that kind of cream look with a little bit of a brown tint. There we go. Looks good. Okay, I want to let that cook and heat thoroughly, and I will meet you in the dining room. Y'all, here we have it all served up. We have our noodles on the bottom, and we spooned some beef and mushrooms and onions with the gravy on top. And that, folks, is beef stroganoff. Let's give it. Hey, y'all, we made it to the dining hall. It's time to try our stroganoff. So let's see what we got. You get a big chunk of beef here. Hopefully it's nice and tender. It cooked a good long time. That is good. The sauce, you can really taste the sour cream. And the beef is tender. It was requiring me to chew a little bit more than I usually like to, but it was a big piece. So, the biggest thing to pack for ingredients for beef stroganoff is patience, though. You have to let it cook a really long time and stew it. And like I say, I probably started way over an hour ago. And just let that stew. The longer you cook it, the better the beef is, the more tender it is. And so, pack yourself some patience. Bring a book if you have to. Take a break, whatever you need to do to make it. So that concludes the show. So I wish everyone a very happy and healthy bon appetit.